In this update, we're watching several pieces of energy over the coming days. First, this area of disturbed weather coming in from the Pacific Northwest. You can see the tight isobars with it. It's going to bring some higher wind gusts, especially along the coastal communities, and some heavier rains back into Washington and Oregon and Northern California. And then once you push inland, that'll bring some mountain snows, and it could pile up in a big way in some of those higher elevations. And then further off to the east, you can definitely see these lined up vorticities. You actually have about three of them. You've got this one coming across the Great Lakes today. Then you have this piece of energy that will be swinging across. And then you'll have the third piece of energy. And that's the energy that will arrive this weekend heading southbound. That's the one that's going to bring the much colder air mass and some snow along the backside as we head into the weekend into early next week. So before that, we've got a lot of warmer air to talk about. Plenty of warm temperature anomalies for November standards as yes, those temperatures will easily be 10 to 15 degrees above average, waiting in the wings of the big change that we're expecting for the weekend. And with that heat, it's going to bring some instability once it taps into some of that energy. So the Storm Prediction Center already has an elevated risk for severe storms as we head into Friday afternoon. We're talking areas back into Tennessee as well as into Kentucky. A little bit lighter instability further south back into Birmingham, into Montgomery, as well as further north, but we could see some stronger storms packing some wind gust and some larger hail associated with this instability as we head into the afternoon time frame. The latest update as of right now, considering it's 2 days out, puts it somewhere in the vicinity into Saturday afternoon. So we should start to see numerous showers and thunderstorms start to build further south back after we get past the noon time frame on your Friday afternoon. Yes, we could be looking at some heavier rains, and some of those showers and thunderstorms likely turn severe in western Tennessee, back into Kentucky, getting into portions of Ohio, and then lighter amounts as we swing further north as you get into western PA. Now, of course, this is before the cold air arrives, but by the weekend, we'll be watching for that complex that's stuck in Canada now, starting to head southbound. When that does, that'll start to lower the jet stream, finally open the door for that colder air to start plunging southbound. And so this right here will be the piece of energy that's actually going to bring the initial stage of some snow as we start into Friday night into Saturday morning. So again, this is your last day, if you will, at least temporarily, for well above average temperatures into Friday night, waiting on the wings of this colder air starting to build further to the north. And it's likely once we get into the overnight on Friday, heading into the early Saturday morning, we're likely going to be seeing some snow starting to break out into Montana, back into areas of the Dakotas, down towards Bismarck, into Sioux Falls, and that will be forming a low pressure center that will be swinging across the upper Midwest as we head into the overnight on Saturday, getting into Sunday morning. We could be looking at some light snow, some wet snowflakes flying back into Iowa, as well as into portions of Wisconsin, get into areas, maybe Chicago could likely see their first, at least in some snow, the first snow of the season, as the low pressure will continue to build across. And then on the back side, that'll be the elevated push of that colder air mass continuing to push southbound. We're really not expecting any precipitation across the central plains, just some modified Arctic air for November standards will be pushing across, and this is the first big blast of the season. And yes, since your really body's not acclimated to it as of right now, you're going to feel it more so, especially because the winds are going to be really cranking on the backside. So that means the wind chill factor is going to be easily 5 to 10 degrees colder than what the actual temperature is. So yeah, it's definitely going to be windy on the backside. Everything you see in green there Those are wind gusts cranking over 30 miles an hour. So 35, say 40 miles an hour at times. Combine that with dropping temperatures. Yes, it is definitely going to be feeling chilly out there, to say the least. And a lot of you guys are trying to find your jackets because you really haven't had much cold air to contend with. This will be a shock to your system. And with the cold blast that will be on the table, starting on Saturday, pushing more into areas on Sunday morning. And by Sunday morning, these are the wind chill factors. This is what you would feel like to the body. Yes, we're talking single digits, folks, back in through the Dakotas, into areas of Nebraska, Iowa, back into the teens, getting into Kansas. It's going to be dropping into the 20s, feels like, for Sunday morning, back into, say, Tulsa, into the Oklahoma City region. So yeah, this is going to be packing a punch for November standards. And there's probably going to be, depending on where you live, 2, 3, if not 4 days, the further off to the southeast you live, you're going to be feeling the effects of this colder air. But it's mainly going to be east of the Continental Divide. If you lived east from there, you're likely going to be feeling this colder shot, and it's mainly going to be across the Ohio Valley, really setting up shop across the southeast and bringing them their first freeze of the season. But before that, we've got some snow to contend with. And once this low pressure moves off, you'll have the northwest wind on the backside. That means lake effect snow will be introducing itself for the first time this season, as the lakes obviously are still plenty warm for this time of year. Combined with the low pressure center, this will add to those snow totals once the low gets mixed in, and we'll see that wraparound moisture. So we should start to see some snow flying back into the Smoky Mountains there, into the Appalachians, as well as into Kentucky, Ohio, West Virginia, further north into Michigan, around through the Great Lakes regions, Western PA. Those areas will likely see some snow out of this deal. As yes, the Arctic high pressure likely stops in the Oklahoma region. They take the full brunt of it. Texas kind of gets a glancing shot, and then it pushes off to the east. But as it does, there is the lake effect snow. By Monday morning, it's really going to be setting up those streamers, if you will, coming in. And so you if you live along the lakes there, you know what I'm talking about. You're used to this type of stuff. And hey, it's November, so this is usually prime time lake effect snow season, when the lakes are plenty warm and you start mixing in some of that colder air. Yes, you're going to be climbing up those snowfall totals on the lake effect snows. So you're going to be looking for that as we, swing into that Monday, Tuesday time frame. But you're also going to be feeling the chill, and we're looking at some freezes coming up shop. Yes, I'm probably talking about you in the portions of the Dallas-Fort Worth area. We're likely expecting a light freeze as that colder air will continue to drain southbound. Likely not an official freeze at the airport, but if you live outside the city, it's a good bet we're going to be looking at right at the freezing mark, if not slightly below. But widespread 20s for Arkansas, getting into the 30s, freezing mark portions of northern Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia. Yes, you'll all likely be under that freeze watches and warnings coming up as we get closer to this event. This is not until Monday, but you're definitely going to be feeling the chill. And with those elevated winds heading into Monday morning, those temperatures are going to be about 5 to 10 degrees lower than what the actual temperature is. So should be widespread 20s across the DFW Metroplex. But again, this outside area is not in the urban heat island. If you live close to the city, you're likely not going to be experiencing that cold. But away from the city, yes, you will likely be feeling those 20s in a big way. And then, of course, that will be swinging further southeast as we head into that Monday morning. And then even into Tuesday, that really pushes east. Yeah, look at that, folks. All the way down into southern Georgia, we'll be feeling like in the upper 20s. Yes, we likely have some back-to-back freezes on the table, but the feels like will be much colder than that. and even into Florida. Yeah, this is going to be a real chill, especially for the southeast so early this season, all the way in the Carolinas, North Carolina, back into Virginia, and of course back into the teens. Feels like getting back into Illinois with some snow you'll be contending with still on the wraparound moisture. But yes, even the Climate Prediction Center is highlighting towards that 11th and 12th time frame as that cold air really packs in down into the southeast. Those temperature anomalies are going to be dropping big time. So this is definitely highly, unusual for you guys this early, this so soon in the season. But that's what we have on the table, an early freeze on the table, and that will likely last for a couple of days, and especially the wind chill. You're going to be feeling that in a big way. So overall, here's the latest update from the American model. It's been continuing to show signs of that swath of snow that will likely initiate back into Montana, getting through areas of the Dakotas, through South Dakota. We'll be swinging in, kind of a wet snow for areas of Iowa, back into northern Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio. Higher amounts the further north you go. And here's the latest European kind of hinting at the same thing. Depends on how much lake effect snow we get with this system, but you get the idea. We are expecting at least some snow out of this deal, but maybe just kind of a wet coating, 1 to 2 inch coatings in some of these areas. But overall, the precipitation, you'll have these systems that come in off the Pacific Northwest. We've got series of complexes still inundating, especially the coastal areas. Lighter amounts as you push inland. Definitely most of the Southwest, much of the Central Plains, Southern Plains is high and dry, especially with the reinforcing shot of the colder air that will just drop those humidity values, increase the winds, and keep you high and dry for the foreseeable future. Even going into next week, it still looks to be on the dry side. Most of the instability is going to be east of there. And some of this will be in the form of snow. Some of this will be in the form of rain. And then, of course, we'll have that severe storms that we'll be contending with before the colder air mixes in on Friday through Tennessee into Kentucky. But overall, this is where predominantly the cold shot will lie. If you live out west, if you live in the Rockies, you live in the Southwest, you're not going to be feeling this chill whatsoever. It's mainly going to be east of there. And as I mentioned, Texas is more of a glancing shot with this. Most of the push is through the Ohio Valley and back in the Southeast with those well below average temperature anomalies. So guys, I appreciate you watching. Do like this video. Definitely hit the subscribe button and catch my next update where I protect you before and after storm.